Welcome to Maths Bridge. We train and learn. We shall continue our C++ learning. Let's get started. In today's agenda, our learning goal would be understanding scope of C++ variables. This is one of the important concepts in C++. Let's look at how scope resolution operator will be used in accessing the variables. C++, similar to C programming language, is a block structured language. Blocks and a scope can be used to construct the program. Precisely in C++. Same variable name can be used in different blocks for the different meaning. I am reiterating. In C++, same variable name can be used in different blocks for the different meaning. Variable defined inside the block said to be local to that block, like a local variable. Global version of variable cannot be accessed from within inner block without scope resolution operator if the names of the variables are same. This is where you started thinking of scope resolution operator. Operator used for scope resolution is : you could see here. So : variable name. When you see this means you are trying to access global variable in a local context. Point to be noted. Let's look at case number 1 to understand the scope of the variable with respect to block structures. If you look at my sample program, within main I have created 2 blocks and then I created same variable name in 2 blocks. What I learned is scope of the variable is limited to a specific block where it is defined. So in the line number 1, I have defined num1 variable of type int with value 10 initialized to it. Similarly, I did same in line number 13 but different block. In C, it will throw a compiler exception, whereas in C++ it is applicable. It is a valid statement which you can use it. The scope of num1 will be limited to first block between line number 6 to line number 10. If you are trying to access this variable outside of the block, you may get an error because the scope is only limited to the block. Similarly, in the second block, which is between line number 12 and then 16, I reused same variable name. However, since the scope of this variable instance is limited to second block, so I can consider this is also a local variable context to the block 2. This is allowed. If I can compile this program to see the output, this is how I could see. In block 1, I initialized with the value 10, which I am seeing on screen. In block 2, I am using same variable to hold the value 40, which I can also see on the console without having any compilation error. Are you clear? I am reiterating. Same variable name can be reused in different blocks for different meaning. That is allowed in C++ programming. Let's look at case number 2. In my main program, I have an outer block, I have an inner block. I defined num1 in outer block. Similarly, I also defined same variable in inner block. What I was recalling that num1 in inner block is limited to that specific block with respect to scope, isn't it? If I was trying to print the value of num1, meaning if I'm trying to access the num1 variable within the inner block, I could only can get access for the inner block variable. So my output would be 40 in inner block statement. Whereas if I would want to display num1 value in outer block, then I could only access num1 variable from outer box, which is holding value 10. If you look at my output from inner block, I am getting 40 as a value which I initialized. In outer block, I am getting value as a 10 for num1. So do you understand how the scope of inner block and the outer block works differently for the different context? Let me read it. Scope of variable is limited to specific block where it is defined. Since scope is managed by block structure, you can redefine variable with the same name in other blocks. Extended C++ features to redefine same variable name more than once based on the context. Are you clear? Let me walk you through case number 3 to understand the scope of the variable. In this variable, I have redefined same variable name on 3 different contexts. At line number 4, the num1 redefined for global context, global scope. In line number 8, I have redefined the same variable within outer block scope, because that is the context of main program. Anywhere else in the main I can access it. I have also redefined the same variable within inner block of the scope. Now the question is how I can access my inner block variable, how I can access my outer block variable, similarly a global variable. Let me see one by one. Let's take a look at my inner block. Within the inner block, if you are trying to access num1, the num1 will be a local scope to this block, isn't it, right? So at line number 12, I will be getting value 40 as an output. You can see here. At line number 13, if I was trying to access the global scope variable, what I would be using? I have to use num1 variable with scope resolution operator. Colon means a scope resolution operator. Variable of a global scope can be accessed by scope resolution operator. Are you clear? Next one. Look at line number 17 and 18. Line number 17, where I was trying to access variable within outer block scope, which is 10. I am getting 10 as an output. Whereas global scope variable can be accessed across anywhere else with a scope resolution operator. So I would be getting 999, which I was initialized at line number 4. Are you clear? This is a good example to understand the scope of the variable in different context. Let me share the context of case 4 to understand the scope of the variable. make a point. If name of global variable is different from local variable, then we don't need to use scope resolution operator. How? On line number 2, if you can see, I have a variable which is different from my local variable context. Do you see this one? Num underscore global, which is different from num1 and num2. Line number 8, the num1 has a scope to specific to outer block, whereas line number 11, I have the same variable redefined for the inner block scope. I can access this variable within this block as a num1. If I was trying to access global variable within this block, I can access it directly by name. We don't require a scope resolution operator. If you look at this output, I could see the value stored in the global variable is displayed in my output. Similarly, context of outer block. In the outer block, I can access my num1 value, which holds value 10, isn't it? So that was the output that I can see in my console. Whereas from outer block also, I can access directly my global variable because that is scope limited to the global. I can access anywhere else. So I would be getting 99n, which is what my variable holds. This is the another context of understanding scope of variable in the different context.
Thanks for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, click on the bell icon and please leave the comment. Happy learning. Thank you. Stay tuned to the upcoming sessions.